the perfect recipe to help your baby sleep all the way through the night. You want to make sure they eat as much as they possibly can. One thing in particular that I personally have never heard of anyone else doing. Hey y'all, Noli here. I make videos about exclusive pumping, about mom life, so if you're into that kind of stuff, please subscribe. Today we are going to be talking about how we were able to get our baby to easily and effortlessly sleep 12 hours by the time he was 8 weeks old. A lot of these things you've probably already heard before, but there is one thing in particular that I personally have never heard of anyone else doing, and it's something that is simple and easy, and I think it really helped our baby to be able to sleep longer. So I'm going to share that with you at the end of this video, but really it was a combination of all of these things that I'm going to tell you about that helped our baby to sleep longer at night. And obviously I have to put a disclaimer in here that every baby is different. What's gonna work for one baby might not work for another baby, but generally these are things that you should be able to do, and it should help all babies to sleep better at night, which is what all of us parents want. So the number one tip is that you want to wake your baby up during the day. And I know it can be hard to do that because your baby is just so sweet and precious, just laying there in their crib, and it kills you to wake them up from their beautiful little slumber. But you have to do it. You have to wake your baby up in regular intervals during the day so that they can learn to associate daytime with being up and awake and doing things, and they can learn that nighttime is when it's time to sleep, not during the day. Another important reason to wake your baby up during the day is that they need the appropriate time for their sleep pressure to build during the day, so that whenever nighttime comes, they will be tired enough to sleep longer throughout the night. So by waking them up at age appropriate amounts of time, you can really help your baby to have that sleep pressure grow throughout the day, and to also help them distinguish between day and night. So going right along with that is that you want to have a consistent schedule for your baby, and you can start this schedule as early as 2 weeks old. And I know what you're thinking, whoa, 2 weeks old, putting your newborn on a schedule at 2 weeks, that's just crazy. But don't worry, you want to make sure that you put them on a schedule that is appropriate for their age. So a book that I have really loved, that other people have recommended as well, is this Moms on Call book. This is the book for 0 to 6 months old. It has in the back some suggested schedules according to your baby's age. So the first schedule that they have starts at 2 weeks, and it goes to 4 weeks old. And then the next schedule is 4 to 8 weeks. And then the next one after that is 8 to 16 weeks. And then 4 to 6 months. So obviously, as your baby gets older, they are able to be awake for a longer amount of time. So each schedule kind of compensates for that, and it adjusts according to the baby's age and what they're able to do. So we followed the schedule that was in this book, and it worked perfectly for our baby. We didn't have to adjust it at all. It worked so well for us. And even that first night, that very first night after we started this schedule, our baby slept so much longer than he usually did at night. So we noticed a difference from day one putting him on a schedule. So just as an example, it says here for 2 to 4 weeks old, it has here that you want to wake your baby up between 6 and 7 a.m. and you feed them, and then they can nap until the next feeding, which is at 9 a.m. So you wake your baby up at 9 and you feed them, and then after that they have playtime for 10 to 30 minutes, and then around 10 a.m. you put your baby down for a nap until 12, and then you feed them, and again they're awake for 10 to 30 minutes, and then you put them down for another nap for 2 hours. So basically your baby is up for up to an hour, and then they're asleep for 2 hours, and then they're up for up to an hour and asleep for 2 hours. So it is age appropriate. It's not going to make your baby stay awake for a really long time, but it is really, really important to have a consistent schedule and to wake your baby up at regular intervals of time so they don't sleep for too long at once. Another thing that I love about this book is that it's really great for first-time moms. It goes over so many different things in here. It goes over things that you should have ready whenever you have the baby, like different medicines and things. It talks about constipation and bowel movements. It explains how to give your baby a bath. It talks about what to do if your baby gets a fever or a cold, or if they fall or cut themselves. It goes over, how to feed your baby and how to help them sleep, how to start them on solid foods. It has so much information in here, and it's not very big. It's a really helpful thing to have as a first-time mom. It really helped me to calm down and know that I know what to do if something happens to my baby, because I can just turn to this book and look it up if I need to. So that's a side note. I really love this book, but if you don't get it, there are also a lot of schedules that you can find online for your baby. But bottom line is that you want to wake your baby up from their naps during the day so that they don't sleep for too long. And having a schedule is very crucial to that. Number 2 is that you want to make sure your baby is nice and full when they go to bed. Whenever they have that last feeding for the night, you want to make sure they eat as much as they possibly can. Now, obviously, you don't want your baby to be too full. You don't want to have their stomachs really full so they don't feel good. But you just want to make sure that they eat enough. Because if they have a nice full belly, they are going to sleep so much longer at night because they're not going to be hungry quite as soon. Now, I know it can be a little hard if you're breastfeeding to know how much your baby has eaten. I know you can weigh them before and after you feed them so that you can see how much they've had. But as much as possible, you really want to make sure that your baby has enough food right before they go down for the night, because that will really help them to sleep longer. So if, for example, you give your baby 1 bottle a day so that your partner can feed the baby, it's a really good idea to do that 1 bottle a day at that last feeding for the night, because then you can really see how much they have eaten, and you can get to know, about how much food they need at night for them to be able to sleep well. So that is something to think about, whether you're breastfeeding or pumping or formula feeding, is that you really want to make sure that your baby gets enough food at that last feeding right before bed. Number 3 is that you want to keep the lights down low during the night whenever you are changing your baby's diaper or feeding them, because you want to have your baby associate the darkness with sleep time. So even though they may wake up momentarily for a feeding or a diaper change, you really want to show them that it is time to sleep. And that kind of goes along with number 4, is that you don't want to change your baby's diaper often during the night. I promise you it will be okay if you leave your baby in their diaper the whole entire night. If they haven't pooped or anything, it'll be fine. And if by chance your baby does leak through their diaper, you can always put them in one size larger whenever you put them down at night so that you can avoid changing it. Because changing a diaper can be very stimulating for a baby. It wakes them up more, which makes it harder for them to go back to sleep after that. So they may wake up because you changed their diaper and then they think, oh, it's time to be awake, it's time to play, when really it isn't. So if you can avoid changing their diaper, don't change their diaper. They'll be okay, I promise you. They will be fine. You can put them in a size up. You can put some diaper cream on there just for extra measure, but they will be okay if you leave them in their diaper all night. Number 5 is to have a consistent bedtime routine. And this is where my secret tip comes into play. So you want to come up with a consistent bedtime routine that works for you and your family. It took us a little bit of time to come up with a routine that worked for us. We tried a lot of different things before we settled on what we do now. A lot of people will give their babies baths. I personally did not think that was necessary to give our baby a bath every single day. Babies don't really get that dirty, so I just thought that was kind of excessive. So that was something that I didn't want to do. But if that's something that you want to do, it is a really good way to signal to your baby that it's time for bed. But instead of that, when our baby was young, in place of giving him a bath, we tried giving him a massage. And that can be something that can really help your baby to calm down. If you just give them something nice and gentle, it can really help them to calm down and get sleepy. With our baby, massages were hit or miss. Sometimes they worked really well and sometimes it would just make him fussy. So we ended up dropping that. We've also tried things like reading books with him, but that's something that we just kind of do during the day anyways. So it wasn't like anything super special that was just for bedtime. So I really wanted to come up with a good way to signal to our baby that it was time to go to sleep. Something that was special that we didn't do during the rest of the day. And I thought about it for several days, trying to figure out what we could do because we didn't want to give our baby a bath every day. Massages did not consistently work. Reading books was something that we liked to do during the day. So we had to come up with something else. And that is when I had a brilliant idea. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has come up with this idea. I'm sure there are other people out there that do this. But I personally have never talked to anyone who does this same thing that we do. So I had the idea that we should use music. Music is so powerful. It can make you feel so many things. And I realized that if we were to choose a good song, something calming and relaxing, something without words, like a classical song or a lo-fi song, I knew that would help to signal to our baby that it was time to go to sleep. So I brought this idea to my husband. He loved it. and he picked out the perfect song. And ironically, it's called Sleeping In. It's a lo-fi song. It's by Casio, Casio, and Don't Cry. That's all one word. And it has, if you can see this, it has the lo-fi girl on it. And we use this song every night for bedtime. We just put it on repeat. So if you're gonna do this, you want to make sure it's not going to be a song you're going to get sick of eventually, because you will be listening to it multiple times every night. But it has worked so well for our baby. Now that he is 8 months old, we have a very simple bedtime routine for him. All that we do is we change his diaper, and then we put on this song. We start playing it on repeat while we feed him his last feeding for the night. I mean, obviously, you know, he's had time for that sleep pressure to build during the day, so he's already tired by the time nighttime comes anyway. But once we put on that song and he starts eating, he's like half asleep for most of the time he's eating his bottle of milk. He just goes out just like that. And whenever he finishes eating his bottle, he just falls straight to sleep. He closes his eyes all the way, and he just falls asleep right in our arms instantly. And it is that simple. And he sleeps all the way through the night, and he's been doing that since he was 2 months old. So it has worked wonders for us. It works 99% of the time. There are some times where he's not quite tired enough yet, on rare occasions. So when we put him in his crib, he's still awake, but he does usually fall asleep within a few minutes, and it's super easy and painless, and it's amazing. I will say, though, that it did take time for him to be able to associate this song with bedtime. So what we did to get him used to it is that we would start to play the song super early. So we'd start playing the song probably like 30 minutes before his bedtime. Now at 7, we start playing the song, and he's usually asleep. He's finished his bottle and is asleep by like 7:20. But before, you know, we would start playing his song around 7, and then it would just be playing for a good 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, because we wanted him to get used to the song and to associate it with sleep time. So we would play the song, we'd, you know, change his diaper, just have some cuddle snuggle time, you know, and then we'd feed him, and then we'd put him in his crib while he was still awake, and we would keep playing the song. At that point, he was small enough that he couldn't like grab it and start playing with it yet. So we were able to just leave it there in his crib above his head, playing softly. And then what I would do actually is I would just periodically, I would go over there and I would lower the volume slowly over time so that it would kind of like, you know, slowly fade out. And then eventually when it was soft enough, I would just take my phone and turn the music off. I mean, obviously there's probably better ways to do that, but that's what I did. I mean, it worked well for us at least. And I feel like playing it during his whole, you know, bedtime routine, and then also playing it while he was falling asleep really helped him to associate that with bedtime. So now, once he hears that song, he just knows that it's time to go to bed, and he goes right to bed, and he's literally asleep whenever he finishes his bottle. So that is one amazing thing that I would really recommend trying if you're struggling to get your baby to sleep. But obviously, you can't just try that one thing. It has to be a combination of all of these things. You definitely need to make sure that you wake your baby up from their naps during the day. So however old they are, just look up how long their naps can be, and you want to make sure you have a consistent schedule. So that is one really important thing to do, along with making sure that your baby is nice and full whenever they go to sleep so that they don't wake up early. And then whenever you do feed them during the night, you avoid changing their diaper and you keep all of the lights down low so that they know it's still time to be sleeping. All of those things, along with this consistent routine and bedtime song, is the perfect recipe to help your baby sleep all the way through the night for a full 12 hours. We started our baby on the schedule in the Moms on Call book starting at 2 weeks old. And by the time he was 4 weeks old, following that schedule and doing all of the things that I just talked about, he was sleeping 6 hours at night by the time he was 4 weeks old. And then by the time he was 6 weeks old, he was sleeping 8 hours. And by the time he was 8 weeks old, he was sleeping 12 hours. Just doing all of these things that I just talked about. So it really does work. Obviously, not every baby is the same, but I think doing all of these things in general works really well for all babies. So if there's anything that you have not tried of all of these tips that I've listed, please give them a try and hang in there. You can do it. You will get there. I promise you. It doesn't last forever. So if you liked this video, if there is anything that you learned, please tell me down in the comments below. Let me know what you think of my special tip that I shared for you. And if you try it out, please let me know if it worked for you or not, because I'm really eager to know how it works for others. But again, if you like this video, like, subscribe, do all of the things. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.